Conquering Mount Scrapmore with Brenda. I'm Brenda, and we're here today with another episode of Quilt Math. Yay, Quilt Math! So Quilt Math is one of these things that we like to do, and this one has been viewer requested. It is called Cat's Cradle or Dove in the Window, depending on what part of the country you're from, because this is what's confusing beginners, because some of these quilt blocks are named more than one thing, but that's okay. I will show you the drawing. But first, let's do our shout out. Okay, our shout out here is A Quilting Tale, and her YouTube channel is going to be in our show notes below. Go give her some love and encouragement and tell her that Brenda from Conquering Mount Scrapmore sent you. Also, we have a bunch of different fun things going on, so you guys have got to get in the show notes. Not only do we have her YouTube channel, we also have the PDF for the Quilt Math here for this Cat's Cradle or Dove in the Window. Also, next week, we're going to start Quilt Bingo, and that's a skill builder for both, like, for beginners, intermediate, and of course, then we have the expert level. So you can either work at your level, or you can work above your level. It'll be fine. It's going to be a fun little sew-along. You can use whatever crazy scraps you want to use, and you pick your palette. Basically, I'm going to give the instructions in dark, medium, or light, so you can throw whatever you want at it. And it's everybody gets the same bingo card, but everybody's block is going to look a little different. So those are going to be, it's going to be fun. We also have the Zoom sew dates from now until the end of December. It's the first Saturday of the month from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, because I'm in Alberta, Canada. Also, I believe you have to go check with the Sew Ya Brothers charity drive to see if it's over or not, because we're getting really close to it being closed. So I have left their YouTube channel and their website in our show notes for here, and then we'll see whether or not they've closed it up, because it's for their charity drive for the homeless in Alaska, and the people that have participated said it was so much fun. It was just a lot of fun, and so yeah, got staff there are just fabulous. So also share, like, and subscribe. Making comments helps push our analytics and our video forward, so we can continue bringing you fun free patterns and quilt math, right? Of course, we also have a Facebook group, and it's warm and welcoming and growing very quickly, and there's numerous fun community chats. There's fabric exchanges by country in order to keep the postage down, costs down, and there's a virtual sewing room hosted by Discord there. Also, I speak for free about quilt elements of design, working with scrap fabrics, and of course, making charity quilts. You can contact me either through my email that's under the About tab in the YouTube channel homepage, right? You go to the About Pet tab and there's my email address, or you can contact me through Facebook. I am a little faster at Facebook than I am at email. Also, if you have shout outs, please send me the link with the business name and their name. They're the person that owns the name. Like, it just has to be a first name. And then I will try and put them on the shout out list. Our list has been pretty good. You guys have been putting out a lot of, like, hey, give this one a shout out, give that one a shout out. So we'd like to continue doing that. Anyways, let's get to this Cat's Cradle. Now, this Cat's Cradle or Dove in a Window is a square, right? And you've seen this, and it's used a lot of subunits. A lot of people use this as a subunit. It is just a gorgeous subunit. Now, it looks like that, or the variation is here, like that, across, right? That's a variation. Now, that variation is a little different, but we won't be looking at that one per se, because basically all you do is you cut two more of these, right, in order to get not cut the square. You cut, like, instead of cutting like one block and then cutting in half, you cut two blocks, and then you have an extra one left over. So this is a really popular subunit. A lot of people use this subunit, and it's really easy to do when you have that easy angle ruler or some ruler like that. It only works on the 45, like if it's a square, like a square block, or the 90-degree square block. It will not, these won't work if you're doing a rectangle or, some variation, right, or stretched out variation. So now on this page here, we have finished size and then trim 2. Trim 2 is your unfinished size, right? And I know a lot of beginners, they get in there and they go, okay, they talk about this and this, but it's the same block, but it's not the same. How come it's not the same measurement? because one is finished size in the quilt, right? That means your seam allowances are not included in that size, where your trim to is your seam allowance, right? So let's say we're doing, I don't know, let's see, a 4-inch square. Let's say we're doing a 4-inch square, right? The unfinished size of the trim to size, or the unfinished size, is 4.5 inches square, right? So that makes the difference. Now I know the beginners, they email me and they're like, why, what about, or how come, you know, they're just, because it's confusing to them, right? It's like, okay, we have the same square, it's called 2 different things. Actually, it's called more than 2 different things, but those are the 2 most common names. So yes, bear with us, right? Now, you're making a 4-inch finish, or 4.5 inch unfinished. You're going to cut one square 4 7/8. Yes, you could do it up to 5-inch and be done. Yes, you can. Just cut it once diagonally, just once from point to point, right? That's it. You're going to always have an extra triangle, right, from every time you do one of these. This is why this one lends itself to being really scrappy, because it works, because you're always making little extra pieces for the next one down the road. Now, for the low volume, right, these 2 half square triangles, right, these 2, you're going to cut a 2 7/8. Yes, you can round it up to 3. Yes, you can on this one, right, because and make sure that you're like, when you cut it on a square, make sure when you're cutting on the diagonal, right, that the diagonal is the bias, and that gets sewn onto the big triangle, right? Now, you can also make your square, which is 2.5. Now, if you choose to make that into a triangle, you're going to cut 2 squares, cut once on the diagonal, and then cut a color square of the same size as your diagonal one. I know that sounds even more confusing, doesn't it? But you can break this down a little differently just by having that triangle there. Or you could do a flip and stitch if you wanted to. I mean, it's entirely up to you. But you would cut, but then on the 4-inch square, you're going to cut 2 of these on the diagonal, but you're also going to cut 1 color on the diagonal using that 2 7/8 method. Now, when you're sewing that together, you're going to sew it together to match your point here, right? So that point there gets sewn in, right? So that seam might be a little on the big side, right? Because you're making your pieces bigger, right? Then you make sure you trim to 4.5. See, when you're doing that 7/8 one, when you do the 7/8 one, it's easy because you've got such little amounts to trim off. Like, you're trimming off crumbs, basically, or dog ears, and that's it, right? So that's kind of one thing to keep in mind too. But like I say, when this lends itself to being a very happy, scrappy little block, because you make an extra big one, and when you're doing the triangle bits, you're making an extra triangle bit. So you can do all sorts of like different colors of low volume and have it look really scrappy that way. And still, every time you cut one of these, you're making 2 different colors. So you can you can mix up your color stuff really quickly. And this one tends to be really popular. It's a very traditional subunit, and it adds a lot of variety, and it actually adds movement, because if you chain these, you can actually get them to chain across the quilt, right? Like, you're putting them at right angles. So let's say you're taking this point, and then the next point would go in a mirrored image. You would have a chain effect going through your quilt, and that chaining effect is just lovely in a quilt. That is something outstanding. And when you go the other way, right, like, so you'd have the points on either side, and then you'd have this point on these 2 sides, right? You have a double chain effect going throughout your quilt, and that's a lovely way to play around with this very simple block. And all you're doing then is using up your scraps. Now, when you're using your scraps, you do have to look at what sizes you have, right? Like, if you have only a few pieces that are bigger and the rest are tiny, you know, you have to really think about, okay, what am I going to cut out of all this tiny stuff, right? Because, you know, maybe your smaller stuff is going to be used for, you know, 2.5-inch squares, right? I mean, if you've got nothing but tiny stuff at the, you know, when your scraps, you know, you dump all your scraps out on the table and you go, you know, I've got nothing big. Well, you know, you have to now rethink how you're going to do this. I have seen these subunits where they make a string quilt going diagonally, and then they cut the strings on the diagonal. Wow. Does that ever look sharp? For the larger square, but not for the tiny, not for the square, the square or this unit down here, this, you know, half square triangle, or the square. But I've seen it where they've done this all in strings, like going up and down. Oh my God, that's gorgeous. And that would help you manage your strings together too, right? Because I mean, then you do all like bright colors through, or dark colors, or whatever you've got in your strings. So it's a very good subunit to play around with. So, you know, I'm going to leave this one up to you as to what you want to do with it. But I hope that you do make use of these. I mean, we are putting them out, hoping that you guys are finding them useful. And we're putting them out in these kind of chart things, just another chart for your wall. So I hope life goes great for you here this next couple of weeks coming up. And I hope everything's going great for you in your sewing room, and your 1/4 inch is just perfect. So you have a fabulous week, and take care until we see each other again. Okay, bye! My husband and I would like to thank you for all of your support and watching our videos and sharing and liking. It has just been, you've put us on such an amazing journey, and we are having so much fun. I hope everything is going so well in your life, and you know, your 1/4 inch is perfect. Everything is working out for you. And we're just so happy to be part of your life, and you having, like I say, you're watching us. I was just so thrilled that you're doing that. So I want to say goodbye, and I want to thank you with all my heart. Okay? Take care. Bye.